I want to bring in Dr. Olena Snigyr, an expert at the Center for Global Studies Strategy in Ukraine. She joins us from Amsterdam. Dr. Snigyr, thank you for joining me this morning. I want to thank you for your patience as well. You're hearing the Russian president talking about Ukraine not being cooperative with the peace deal and making the commitments that he needs to see to be sure that Ukraine really wants an end to this war. What do you make of that?
I will just repeat what we... Well, first of all, thank you for the invitation and the possibility to speak with you here. I would just repeat that what we, the Ukrainians and our politicians and our civil society activists were saying all this time, that the existence of Ukraine is not on the negotiation table. So we do not negotiate about our existence, and Russian peace deal, it's not really a peace deal. It's just pure blackmail, and they say that we do not have the right to exist. That Ukrainian identity is not the real, something real, and that the Ukrainian state has to be eliminated. So this cannot be the point of negotiations in any terms. And what Putin has said about so-called, what he estimated, there were some agreements. There were no agreements. There was just Russian terms put on the table, and the Ukrainian side didn't agree with that. That's what I wanted to say about this.
Well, probably the U.S. government agrees with you. Chief National Security spokesperson John Kirby says that the Russian government intends to annex Ukraine, and that speaks to what you're just saying. It does corroborate, what you're saying this morning. He says Russia had said at the beginning of the year, we all saw, it had no intentions of invading Ukraine, and here it was in February doing the same thing. And now it says it does not want to annex the Ukraine, but here it is taking up territories. How do you feel about that?
What we see, well, first of all, I want to say that this war hasn't started on the 24th of February. It has escalated to a full-fledged aggression on the 24th of February. But the real war has started in 2014 with the annexation of Crimea and with the invasion of Russia to Ukrainian eastern territories and the occupation of Ukrainian eastern territories. So on the 24th of February, we saw that Putin has lost his patience. He was trying to infiltrate in Ukraine Russian agents to control Ukrainian politics, to influence in malign way the Ukrainian existence, Ukrainian society, to stop Ukrainian development as a democratic state and Ukrainian reforms, and he failed. Moscow failed, so he lost his patience and decided to stop Ukrainian existence of Ukrainian state by war means. And that continues still. So Russia lost, but they overestimated, of course, their possibilities. So they intended to conquer Ukraine and in 3 or 4 days, as they declared it from the first few days of the invasion. But then they failed, and they had to surrender from northern and eastern, northeast territories. Still, we see that they changed the tactics, and now they're using the tactics of the firewall. That artillery is just shelling the nearby cities and civilian objects and everything like civilian buildings and infrastructure, everything where Russian artillery can reach. And they're just shelling it and destroying it and killing people, and then Russian mercenaries follow. So that's their tactic now, and that's why we need to stop them, because they will not stop, and they if some leaders and in some countries think that there can be some frozen conflict between Russia and Ukraine, that this war can be frozen. It cannot be frozen, actually, and it cannot be frozen because Russia doesn't want to freeze it. Because if there is any peace deal about Ukraine, then Russia will just stop for a while, take a break, gather more forces, and then move forward. And they already declare that their next aim is Poland, and that they already declare their main goal to change and to ruin the order, the world order that is now is in the world. Yeah, that those rules that which many countries follow to live in peace in the world. So that's their aim, actually, and they openly declare it. So Ukraine is just the first step.
Wow. Dr. Snigyr, I know we're due for a break now, but I just wanted to quickly get your thoughts on what Switzerland said yesterday. They were offered the opportunity to take in wounded Ukrainian citizens, people who had been wounded from the war, and they refused because they said it would make them participatory to the war. And let's talk about the place of neutrality. And some observers have said people need to not be participatory to this war by being neutral. What do you make of that? Do you think it's possible to actually be neutral in this Russian invasion?
For Ukrainian citizens, it is not possible because, as we saw, what we saw in on the occupied territories that were later they were liberated by Ukrainian forces, we saw these mass killings, mass murders of Ukrainian citizens by Russian soldiers, and even those who believed that there can be some negotiations and there can be some coexistence, and at least that the occupiers will not touch civilians, will not touch children and women and elder men. Well, it didn't happen. So many of civilians were killed. So for Russians, actually, even if some people want to be neutral here, Russians do not consider them neutral. That's the problem. So that's about the Ukrainian citizens. For the rest of the world, it's also like for. Well, maybe if you specify here a question, I can answer you.
Well, I asked about Switzerland, but Alina, I think we get the point you're trying to make, and thank you so much for speaking with us this morning.
Thank you.
When we come back after the break. The U.S. places